Have you ever wondered why something always feels missing, no matter how much you achieve, acquire, or become? In those rare moments when there's no one to impress, no role to play, no mask to wear, could it be that all this time you've been trying to become someone you were never meant to be? That beneath the effort, the rituals, the diets, the supplements, the meditation styles, the cold showers, you've tried it all and still something feels off. Not wrong exactly, just not whole. Because maybe the answers aren't out there waiting to be discovered. Maybe they're hidden beneath everything you've been told to believe. Maybe this isn't about finding a new truth, but peeling away the ones you never questioned. Before the labels, before the masks, before the expectations and identities were handed to you like costumes at birth, who were you? Not as an idea, but in your raw, untouched essence. Can you remember? Before you were molded by your parents, by school, by the rules of a world that rewarded conformity and punished authenticity. Before the need to fit in silenced your wonder. Before you began bending yourself into shapes others could accept, who were you in those first 7 years of your life, when your soul was still louder than your mind, when you didn't think your way through life but felt it? Are you still in there? Or have you been too busy becoming someone the world could understand? Someone the world could accept, or at the very least, tolerate? When did your aliveness become something you had to explain? When did your voice need permission? When did your being need validation? You were born whole, not perfect, not polished, but whole. You didn't question your worth. You didn't shrink your laughter. You didn't overanalyze your tears. And then slowly, layer by layer, they handed you masks to wear. Be strong, be quiet, be pretty, be successful, be normal. They told you what mattered and what didn't, what to want, what to hide, what to chase. And you learned to trade authenticity for approval, truth for safety, feeling for functioning. And now, you're exhausted, but you don't know why. You're surrounded, but you feel alone. You're achieving, but you don't feel alive. Because somewhere along the way, you stopped asking who you are and started asking who you should be. The mind is like a storm, always spinning, always reaching, always constructing identities just to survive. And you've become the storm, believing every cloud that passes is who you are. But you are not the storm, you are the sky, vast, silent, aware. You are not the thought, you are the one who sees it. You are not the role, you are the consciousness beneath it. Now ask yourself, not from the mind, but from the quiet place inside, who was I before I learned to perform? What did I love before they told me what to value? What did my heart know before the opposite was taught to me? Let these questions open the ancient and dusty door inside you, the one that's been waiting all this time, because you were never lost, you were just silenced. Beneath all the layers you wore to be accepted, beneath the achievements you stacked to feel worthy, and beneath the silence you adopted to avoid rejection, you are still there. The real you, not the anxious mind, the polite smile, or the curated image, but the wild, the wise, the original. The one who danced before they taught you to sit still, the one who cried without shame, the one who spoke to trees, the one who believed in magic. But let me tell you a story about a woman named Hana. On the surface, Hana had it all, a successful career, a respected title. She was a corporate lawyer in a major city, sharp, polished, reliable. But every day was a quiet hustle, an invisible weight pressing against her chest. She had learned, early on, that no was not an option. She overperformed, she over-delivered. She was always one step ahead, not out of passion, but out of pressure. It had been that way since school. Her parents, with good intentions, had filled her evenings with extra classes, her nights with endless homework, her dreams with expectations. She adapted, she succeeded. She wore the mask so well that even she forgot it was a mask. But what no one knew, not even her closest friends, was that Hana had once been in love, not with a person, but with something simple, something pure, cars. She had collected toy cars as a child. She knew every model by heart, and gave them as gifts to her friends like they were sacred treasures. It wasn't just a hobby, it was her language, her joy, her secret self. And in that space between childhood and adulthood, she had a brief taste of freedom. During a gap year after high school, while traveling abroad, she stumbled into a small garage run by kind strangers and got a job helping to repair vintage cars, rusty, broken, abandoned machines that she lovingly brought back to life. It was messy, greasy, unpredictable, and yet she had never felt more alive. But like many of us, the dream ended. The world called her back. Back to university. Back to responsibility. Back to being who she was expected to be. She became the lawyer, the workhorse, 7 days a week, late nights, just like those endless school days that trained her to perform. But something started to crack. It began as a whisper, a restlessness in the chest, a hunger that no promotion could satisfy. She began to meditate, not to escape, but to listen, to feel, to remember. And little by little, the voice she had silenced for decades began to speak again. It didn't yell, it didn't demand. It simply reminded of engines, of freedom, of the little girl who gave away toy cars like blessings. And then she did the unthinkable. She quit. She left the gray towers of her corporate life behind, packed up her belongings, and moved across the world to Australia. There she opened a small business. She bought broken cars, repaired them, restored them, and sold them to people who saw their beauty. It wasn't easy. Her parents were furious. Her colleagues thought she had lost her mind. But this time, she wasn't living for them. She was living for the little girl inside her, the one who never forgot what joy feels like. Today, she makes more money than she ever did as a lawyer. But that's not the point. The real wealth is in the freedom, the alignment. She works with people who see her, not just her output. She has time for herself, time for her 2 children. And yes, she found the love of her life in that little town, surrounded by wildflowers and the sound of engines humming with purpose. All of that because she chose to listen to the voice that had been whispering all along, the child's voice within her instead of the world's voice. You see, just like Hana, we were all wounded by the same belief that who we truly are is not enough. And so we became actors on a stage, afraid of the silence between applause. We became masters of control, trying to shape the world so we could feel safe in it. We abandoned our feelings because they were too loud, too raw, too unfiltered for a world that prefers neatness over depth. But healing is not about becoming better. It's about becoming real again. It's about unbecoming everything that was never truly you. And that's not an easy path. Because to peel back the layers is to feel again, to remember what hurt, to touch the ache we've been avoiding. But within that ache is the way back, not forward, back, to the child who never needed to prove anything, to the soul who came here not to perform, but to be. Carl Jung called this process of returning to your essence individuation. It refers to the journey through which a person integrates the conscious and unconscious parts of the psyche to become a whole, authentic self. Jung saw individuation as a path to psychological health, inner harmony, and true maturity. The individuation process involves making the unconscious conscious. It's a lifelong psychological journey towards self-realization, a path that begins when we stop over-identifying with the ego, the voice of I am a lawyer, I'm not good at this, I always mess things up. Everything that follows I am is often a mask, a construct the ego uses to protect itself, to protect you. But that mask can also become a trap, one that keeps you from fulfilling what you were truly meant to be. This inner transformation begins when you stop chasing who you're supposed to be and start uncovering the deeper layers of who you already are. You begin to notice the roles you've been playing, versions of yourself shaped to survive, to please, to fit in. Because individuation is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering what has always been within you. It begins by confronting the persona, the mask you wear for the world. Then, by exploring the shadow, the parts of you you've disowned, rejected, or forgotten. And through that inner work, something subtle but powerful happens. You stop identifying with the storm of your thoughts and begin to root yourself in the vastness of your inner sky. You begin to reclaim the lost parts of yourself, the inner child, the intuitive artist, the warrior, the mystic. These are not fantasies. They are real aspects of your true self, waiting to be seen, heard, and integrated. It's not easy. It requires courage, patience, and a willingness to turn inward. But it's the only path that leads to authenticity. And it's available to anyone brave enough to listen, just like Hana did. If you'd like to explore this journey more deeply, Carl Jung's book, The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, is one of his most essential works. It explains key inner forces like the self, the shadow, the anima and animus, and how they shape the psyche. It offers profound insight into how we can integrate these archetypes and move toward wholeness. You'll find the link in the description. As we come to the end of this journey, I want to invite you into a moment of reflection and ask yourself, who is your inner child? Who were you before the world told you who to be? Do you see yourself as a player, an architect, a healer, a dancer, something else? Whatever comes up first, honor it. Because the first answer is usually the truest one. It comes before the mind filters it, before the ego edits it. So I invite you right now to type it in the comments, name it, claim it, let it be seen, not just by others, but by yourself. Because when you put it into words, when you write it, send it, speak it, you send a message to your own subconscious. I see you. I remember you. I honor who you truly are. And that simple act is already a step on the path of individuation, a step toward your wholeness, toward home. If this video resonated with you, please consider liking and subscribing, not just to support the channel, but to keep receiving reminders like this, reminders that call you back to yourself. Thank you for watching, thank you for feeling, and thank you for remembering. Until next time, keep listening inward.
Because the deeper you go, the more your truth begins to